nice presentation on DWC, is that right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about hydroponics.
Yeah, great. So without further ado, Rich.
Right, Rich. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for letting me do this. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and just have the fun to talk about this topic. I made some storyboards here, and they're pretty much just to keep me on track of what I wanted to talk about. So if you can't see it, it's no big deal because we're just going to kind of talk through it. And basically what the agenda is we're going to start by picking a specific scenario. So we're going to say this is the kind of the problem, and then talk about goals, kind of like what's the goal of this gardener, and maybe some general goals of gardening. And then I'm specifically going to introduce you to this solution to the problem, this way to grow this product. And it's with this deep water culture. And basically I'm going to stick a stake in the sand here and say this is the way to do it. And then we're going to go into it just a little bit deeper because I'm going to show you specifically like the maintenance that's involved in doing it. So just like a level a little bit deeper into it. And then we're going to close by talking about pros and cons and alternatives. So what's in it for a patient here is you can see this way to garden, and it's really a great way to garden. And if you have goals similar to this scenario we're going to talk about, it'll work for you. What's in it for a caregiver is if you have patients here, they're going to see how much work you do and maybe have a little bit more appreciation for how much it is to be a caregiver and be trying to grow and produce this product. And then I'm asking for caregivers' help when we get to the part where we're talking about alternatives, because maybe we can help people tweak this and make it easy. Because what I've picked, I think, is a really simple way to do it. But I have a pad of paper here, and if we kind of get off the topic a little bit, I'm calling this the parking lot. So if we have good ideas and they're not right on the topic, I'm going to just record them and we'll get to them later, or maybe at another session. But what I am going to do is ask some questions as we go along. So I've combined cash cab and a YouTube video. I have 10 questions. And we're going to ask the questions that go along. Whoever gets it first gets the prize. So HTG Supply, it's the shop around the corner here on Groesbeck, was kind of my sponsor. And they gave me some bags to give away. And then there's Twix candy bars in there. And then this Bubble Boy, the demo that I'm going to show here, that's a prize too. We're going to give that away tonight too. But my name's Rich. I'm a gardener. I have passion for doing this. I'm not an expert, and I don't like to be called an expert. If you look at the definition of expert, what I do is I take the word and I break it down into X and spurt. So expert is X is a has-been, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. So I'm not the expert at this. I'm just facilitating this tonight. And basically, I'm going to talk about the first board. We're going to talk about a scenario, and what the scenario is a new patient's come to you and said, I have this condition, and I understand that medical marijuana is potentially a solution for that, and I've decided I want to try it. And they've done some analysis, and they basically said they think their needs are about 2 grams a day. I think that's fair for somebody to budget that. And then they've heard about hydro, so they've made this jump into they want to do hydro. So that's really the scenario is somebody that's going to want 2 grams a day is going to try to do this. It's going to take 3 or 4 months to produce that amount of product. So what I'm going to specifically suggest is a way to do that, and we're going to get that in the next chart. But we're going to talk a little bit about goals to start, the goals of this person. And I think what I did was I kind of grouped these together and said goals are high quality, short flowering, and high yield. And as I looked at this a little bit more, it kind of reminded me of a sign that my dad had in his business, and it said, fast, cheap, or good, pick any 2. And indeed what that is, when you look at that, is this is a project management triangle. And this is what project managers do, is they manage the balance between fast, cheap, and good. Fast is your schedule, cheap is your budget, how much you're going to spend to do it, and then good is really your quality. And this is a product that's really important that it has the right quality. The trichomes have to be right, or absolutely everything you did is just a total waste. It can't be harsh. It has to taste right. You know, so it's something that has to be produced absolutely right, and that's what's the hard thing about it. But can anybody help me out with some goals that you're thinking of if you think about goals for gardening? Does anybody have something on their mind that's something, a goal that's like, this is a goal?
Healthy plants.
Yeah, that's good. And you know, a goal for me is this has to be fun. This has to be an enjoyable experience. It sucks that we have to do it inside under artificial light. And I'd love to in my lifetime be able to grow these outside. I think that's what God intended. But let's go on a little bit more and I'll jump into what it is I'm presenting as the simple, easy way to do this. So what it is it's called a deep water culture. I have a hard time with that. I'm a scuba diver. There's nothing deep water about that, but that's what it's called. And it's passive. To make this system active, you would potentially add like a water pump to it, maybe pump water between reservoirs. But this system's passive, and I'm going to show you a little bit more detail. But basically, it's a bucket with an air pump and a basket. And the reason that it works is a couple things. It uses the plant's kind of natural capillary action. The tension is the principle, and it sucks the water up naturally from the reservoir up into the plant. And what's cool about it is when you do it this way, the plant always has total access to what it needs. It has access to the water, it has access to the nutrient, and it has access to oxygen doing this. So that's why hydro is fast, is that it gives the plant what it needs. A little tricky. These are kind of the things you need. So I have a handout I'm going to give out. It has sort of kind of some lists of bill of materials on it, I call it. And it'll kind of show you this is what makes hydro different than growing with some sort of planting mix. But it's a bucket and a basket and water and a air stone. And I'm showing on here styrofoam. And I have a couple questions I'm going to ask as we start to get in this. One thing that's kind of interesting is, does anybody know how old hydroponics are? When was it invented?
Thousands of years.
Yeah, well, there's a time period though it was from. Does anybody know?
Phoenicians maybe? Greek.
Okay, I'm going to give him the prize for that. Actually, the evidence is that the ancient Egyptians used hydroponics because they found clay pottery that was definitely done for the purpose of hydroponics. There was an event in our recent history that kind of revolutionized hydroponics. And I look at technology as changing kind of two ways, kind of revolutionizing or evolutionizing. And the people using marijuana as medical products help the evolution of the product. But there was an event that happened that revolutionized marijuana. Does anybody know that? Some of you guys probably participated in it. Before that. It was actually before that. It was the people that participated in it when they were young that helped make the 60s happen, I think.
City council?
So what I'm thinking of is World War II. So what happened during World War II is they fed people with hydroponics, especially in the South Pacific. The United States government put money into the development of hydroponics. And it was enough knowledge and enough people saw it and used it that when they went back home that it started the growth of this thing that's fortunately now has some ability to people like us that want to try to use it. I don't think the industry that's still producing the things that we use has responded to really all of our needs, but they've come a long way in the years that I've been doing it. This thing is, I call it a bubble bucket. HTG Supplies calls that a bubble boy, and you can buy it as a kid. It's called a bubble boy. And Jack was telling me the cool people call it a hempy bucket.
Don't say the cool people now, come on.
But it's a bubble bucket, not to be confused with bubble hash. So the question is does anybody know why they call bubble hash?
Because it bubbles when you burn
Who
it.
said that? Right. It's not having to do with bubbling water. It makes a bubble sound when you burn it.
See, where's Monkey Kong? We need to.
Yeah, all right.
He knows everything.
So
See, smoking the ash, you win something.
One of the things that I'm an advocate of using here in the basket is rock wool or stone wool as the medium to start your cones in. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that when we start looking at that hardware. But does anybody know what rock wool is made out of?
Glass, that's glass.
Yeah, that's probably the closest thing. It's made from granite. And what it is it's extruded and it's from granite. It's kind of like making cotton candy out of stone. The good thing about it is it works great for this, better than most things, I believe. But it's not environmentally friendly. It doesn't recycle. So if you use it, you can reuse parts of it. So you can sterilize it and reuse it. And you'll see the way that I do it. You have a use for some of the reuse as you do it. So that's something to be conscious of. There's downsides to this. So why do you think I'm putting the bucket here on styrofoam?
To insulate it.
That's right. Yeah, insulation. It's really important that the bucket, the water in the bucket stays the room temperature. So if you're doing a plant, you want the top of the plant, and the middle of the plant, and the roots of the plant to all be the same temperature. And there's one option to this would be putting in a heater, like from an aquarium. So if you had a problem with your roots being cold, you can control that. And then today there's products to chill it. So if you're in an environment where your stuff's too hot, you can chill that water pretty simply too.
What temperature should the water be?
I think mid-70s is probably the best. I got bad news. If you're gonna go into this, there's some expenses you can't avoid. And if I said something like, I hooked my RO up to a float valve, what do you think I'm meaning by RO?
Reverse osmosis.
Yeah, so who said that first back here? Okay, come on, yeah, I'll get you one when I go back. So yeah, you won that one. So absolutely, I'm talking about reverse osmosis water filter. This is a hobby or something that involves water, and the water's got.
He's gonna make you walk, James.
Yeah, how about that? I'm getting worn out just wondering.
I'm just kidding.
But unfortunately, there's lots of RO systems available, and you'll see on the handout, I have one of them on there that I think is pretty affordable. But if you're giving advice to a gardener and he's gonna talk about doing hydroponics, you gotta tell him he's gotta buy a water filter. I'm not a huge fan of how RO water filters work, that they waste water, but a huge difference. If you think about you're pitching the percentage of nutrient in this thing up to like 14 or 1600 parts per million. And if you start at 140 of garbage, you know, if you look at that as a percentage of your total, and then as it evaporates down, it concentrates in there, you're starting by poisoning your plant unless you filter the water. So you gotta filter the water. But I want to talk just a couple things about doing that safely. If I have 30 gallons of water, what does it weigh?
240.
That's right, you won that one. So close enough.
Oh, you're pretty good there, girl.
About 8 pounds a gallon.
Go up there and get your prize. He don't want to walk.
So if you're filtering your water and you're putting it into a reservoir, you can't just go to Home Depot and buy a plastic tub to do that in. That some of them are rated for the weight, so watch it. Just don't do something that's going to cause property damage in your home. Because you can set the thing up with the float valve and it'll fill that thing overnight or in a couple days while you're not watching it. But you don't want to put it in something that'll fail. It'll look good when you start with, but if you overfill something that's not designed to hold that weight, you could cause a problem.
Can I just interject? You can
Sure.
You can find food grade 55-gallon drums on Craigslist on occasion for about $25 a piece. For the res. That's what I use for my water res.
I just used 60-quart filter, and I have eight of them.
So there's an alternative. Think about that. Just don't jump into something that was inexpensive. So I'm saying you need filtered water. You also need a way to measure the temperature of the water. So you got to know what the temperature is. So you got to invest in some way to measure the temperature. And then obviously, you need light. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the light I'm going to recommend when we do the handout here in just a second. And then I put on the list, you need a fan and a muffler and ducting. You know, a lot of gardeners have constraints, and one of them is sound. What's sound measured in? Decibels. Decibels, that's right. He should be on cash cap. Oh, you said it first. But decibels, you know, and that's one area I think the suppliers of material or equipment for this industry severely lack. You look at fans and the choices of fans, not one of them will show you the dB rating of the fan. To me, that's an important thing to know, but you gotta consider that, and that's why I'm putting the muffler on here. The mufflers are cheap and they help. And then maybe the person needs a tent, depending on where they're gardening. I put on here AC, air conditioning, heater, dehumidifier, and I put on here CO2. I think for the cost of CO2 in this person's constraint where they have a specific quantity they want to grow in a very short period of time, that CO2 should be considered. So what I'm telling them specifically is 2 of these you're gonna grow in a 3-gallon bucket and flower in a 5-gallon bucket. 2 of them under 1,000-watt light, 1 month growing and probably 2 to 3 months flowering, and that'll produce enough that they'll meet that person's needs. And then of course we're going to show them what to do with the leaf so they have a little bit of a cushion in what they're producing. But let's go on. So I want to get into just a little bit deeper so that you can kind of have a little bit of appreciation for what it actually involves. So I made a handout, and what's on here is some pictures to start with of some plants. So there's a photograph of the setup that we're talking about. On the upper corner, the plant's only like 3 weeks old, and then the second row on the left, that's just the plant a week longer. So what happens is it'll grow a root ball under the basket, and then the root ball kind of fills the bucket and kind of starts growing like a beard. And as the thing gets older, like the oldest picture there, you can see the roots actually sit on top of the air stone. And I think eventually the industry's going to recognize we need more bucket choices. But
Are they cutting the bottom out of the net pot in this situation?
no, it's just like this. Okay, so what I want to talk about is a little bit about the maintenance. What's on the bottom of that is some feeding schedules, and then what's on the back is kind of the list of the bill of materials that I was talking about. Let's jump into it just a little bit more. Daily, one of the things that you have to do when you're doing this daily is maintain the water level. So what I do is I'm an advocate for using this 6-inch basket, because when the plant's in it, you can slide the plant over like this and you have visual of the nutrient that's in the bucket. And then I suggest just using a stick like this to check it. You're visually looking in the bucket every day and you can see when the water's at the level you want it to be. There's ways to put tubes in here and drill holes and put tubes up the side, but for simplicity, I think this is just the way to do it. So daily there's maintenance involved. You could put a float valve right inside this lid right here and hook your RO up to the 2 deep water cultures that I'm suggesting the patient has, and it would maintain the water level. What I'm suggesting further is you see on there is that those feeding schedules are from Advanced Nutrients. And that's where I'm taking this, where we're talking about weekly maintenance here, is weekly. Okay, so daily I'm giving it water. Weekly, it's a flush and fill. So you have this nutrient in this thing, and that plant's one nutrient for that 1 week. When that week's over, that gets recycled. You take it out and pour it on your rose bushes or something. They love it. But if you're doing it in your basement, you haul those buckets up. You know, they can get heavy. If you have a back issue and you're interested in doing this, a simple siphon pump can pull the water out of the buckets. You take the plant out of the bucket. Basically, this is a 5-gallon bucket, but I have this here talking about being a maintenance bucket. So you're taking your plant out of this bucket, just setting it in a maintenance bucket. You're taking this bucket and you gotta wash it. So you're gonna dump it and then you're gonna wash it. So I'm saying you need maintenance buckets. You need an area to deal with washing these. If you don't wash them, you potentially could expose your plants to root rot. So best practices in doing this, measuring the nutrient, using nutrients with a nutrient syringe. And I want to show you a couple tips about doing that. And then I put on their big spoon. because as you add the nutrients, you gotta stir it each time. So if you have a question, save it for later. And then the other thing is advanced. Advanced is made for hydroponics. If you look at different types of nutrients and you mix them with water, and then you look and you see them in the bottom of your bucket, I would say that nutrient's not made for hydroponics. When you look at advanced nutrient, you stir it in, it stays stirred in the whole week. There's nothing laying at the bottom of your bucket. But, so let's look at this a little bit in more detail. I'm just gonna go through really quick what I'm suggesting. So I suggest you tell the new patient to go to the farmer's market and buy clones. So he can go get a clone, and it doesn't really matter if the clone's in rock wool like this, like a little rock wool cube, or whether it's in a plug of some kind. Because after the clone's grown, transplant it into a 4-inch rock wool cube. So if this hole's not big enough, this can just be cut out. And if you have a cup size of dirt, this whole thing can just be cut out and the dirt planted right into this. And then this can be planted low in the basket and just rock wool cubes put over the top of it, or this is really where you use the recycled rock wool. So you eventually, when you have your plant big enough that you want to, I call it hydro it, so you're taking it from being a larger clone to putting it into the hydroponics, is basically putting it here like this. You can put rock wool cubes down here or recycled rock wool material from other grow periods. And then you have to fill the sides in. So again, recycled pieces of rock wool, or you can use, the traditional clay pellets to fill in. What's going to happen when this thing grows is this plant that's going to be up here is going to weigh a lot. And it's going to have this flexible thing here, and then it's going to have the roots that have some weight to them. So one of the drawbacks of this is the plants are top heavy. Another advantage of using this type of basket is you can actually put screws in here and tie the plant. So you can put screws in here, put string or rope around the plant, tie it so that when you move it like this, actually they get so big that you can start you're picking it up by the stalk. This part becomes insignificant weight.
They also have inexpensive yo-yos you can buy too. Yo-yos, cheap ones, plastic, you hang them by a hook up top or something, and it grabs the plant low and then just keeps tension.
And holds the plant up for you. Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Just lift it and the plant will stay right there while you're doing your maintenance. Yeah, very good idea. Air stones have changed over time. You used to only be able to get these from, pet stores where it was aquarium product, but these are now being made for hydroponics. And the nice thing about this particular kind is they're reusable. So the Bubble Boy is the air pump with hose and air stone, and then it's got obviously some rock wool with it, the bucket and a basket, and then all that's happened here is there's a hole so that the hose can go through the bucket through the side of the bucket into the hole. So just a little bit about the nutrient as we start to talk about it. I have a couple of them here. I just want to show you this example and just talk a little bit about it. So if you look at your sheet there, the part at the bottom on the left is for growing, for vegetative state. And then on the other side is the feeding schedule for flowering. And the reason they're different is because I'm using 8 liters of liquid in a 3-gallon bucket, and then the last week of growth, I switched to a 5-gallon bucket, so you can see the liters change there. But the first week that you do this, instead of putting 8 liters in here, you can actually fill the bucket, oh, sorry, I don't have the picture anymore, but you fill the bucket to above the basket, so it's got like 10 liters of nutrient solution in there. Because the roots don't come out right away, they won't have roots the first time, so you don't want to starve it from water. So when the first week, the water's got to be up here, and then the second week I do 9 liters, so I let the water drop to here, and then by the 3rd week the water's below the basket and the roots are actually down into the water. So one of the nice things about here is the first week you basically do absolutely nothing but spin the plant so it gets different light. A little trick with the nutrient solution as we're talking is, again, I'm using this pH perfect product, so all I'm doing is just shaking these up each time I do it. And you can see on there, what it's done is it's taken this fancy colorful schedule and it's calculated to how many milliliters of each one of their products that you need. So you could just call these by their name or number them if you wanted. But when you're using the syringe, it lets you have the accuracy that you want. So if it says 24 milliliters, what happens when you put that down in the nutrient, you pull it back, the first time it's gonna pull in some air because this tube's empty. So you're gonna see about a 5 milliliter air bubble in there. Well, this simple, quick solution to that is pull it back to 29 the first time. And then when you're using it, hold it like this so that the air bubble's at the top. So when you're putting it in the bucket, the first time you push it like this so it pushes the air bubble out. And then hold that siphon so when you go to do your next bucket, you put this back in the nutrient and you can pull it exactly back to 24. Push it in the next bucket, pull it, push it in the next bucket, pull it, push it in the next bucket. And then each time you do one of the nutrients, you gotta stop and stir it. So you stop and stir it, and then you do the next thing. So if it says use Sensi Part A in each bucket and stir it, then you do Sensi Part B in each bucket and stir it. And then you start with whatever thing it needs for what week it's in. Some of these things, it's really obvious what they are. This one called B52, man, does that
Vitamins.
that smells like vitamin B even when the bottle's been washed out.
Super Thrive, it smells to me.
The one that I think is impressive is this one called Nirvana. It is super strong fertilizer. It smells like it, even with, again, with the bottle empty. And then some of the things are simple things like Sensizyme is enzymes. Some of the things that are more expensive that they have are the fungus, and their fungus is what they call piranha, and then they have microbes called tarantula. But there's also this product called Rhino Skin, which is silica. And in their product, the only way to give silica to your plant is to use this. So what they have done is they have it set up at levels. So if you want to keep it really simple, you just grow this level. If you want to add, you grow this level. If you want to do the whole thing, you have to buy all these products. Complain about advanced is it's expensive, and it is expensive. The complaint I have about it is you can't just buy one plant's worth of stuff. I did the math. I went online, I calculated what the price of each one of the products is, and they're in 1,000 milliliter bottles. So I divided by 1,000, then multiplied by, you can see in the far column there, it tells you per plant how many milliliters it needs for its whole life. And so I calculated the price per plant for this product's $95. I did the same thing for Fox Farm, and some of their ingredients are expensive too. So they're about the same price. It's about $95 per nutrient per plant if you take the time to do all that math.
What? Did you say $95 a plant?
Yeah. Per nutrient. And then the other thing I have on here under maintenance is at the end of the grow. So one of the things that's nice about this is when you're done with it, you're done really quick. Because you can cut your plant off, this comes out, you cut the roots off, this comes out, and this has to be washed with hydrogen peroxide. So the end of grow when you're doing hydros, pretty darn simple. And then obviously I put on here recycling. So let's go on and talk about pros and cons of this. So I listed some pros and cons. Oh, you know, and I have a couple more questions. So we were talking about the business case. Is this a positive business case? And I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of time to go through a bunch of details on how I calculated the business case, but does that one of the things when I'm recommending this 1,000-watt light? One of the things that's great that's happened is this equipment that we have available today has been designed in a way that when it fails, it goes off. That's why you don't hear about homes being burned down with this stuff. It's designed in a way when it's safer. Not like back in the day when appliances caused problems. Appliances have been designed safely for a long time now, and these all fit into that category. So if you install it right, it's safe. 1,000-watt light, 1,000-watt, 120-volt light is how many amps?
9.
About 8. Yeah, who said 8? Yeah, it's 8.3. That's the right answer. So if you go to your circuit breaker in your home, what you'll find is what most people have is most of their stuff's on a few circuit breakers, and then they have a bunch of other circuit breakers that don't have a lot of stuff. So if you take a 20 amp circuit breaker that really goes to one of the bedrooms that maybe has an alarm clock on it, those 20 amps are available if you're going to have if you got a plug going to it. So you could put 2,000-watt lights on one 20 amp. On one 20 amp circuit, but you probably couldn't put much of anything else. So if you have a strategy in your grow room, is pick circuits that don't have stuff on them have 3 or 4 circuits available. Put your heater and air conditioner on one circuit, put a couple lights on one, put fans and pumps on another. So you have to spread out the load, but it can certainly be done safely. So here's pros and cons. I'm saying it's a positive business case. 1,000-watt light's about 40 bucks a month. So 3 months of that, it's $120. I've got 2 plants I put 100 bucks each into, so I got 200 bucks of nutrients. And I think it's fair to budget about $20 a month for a small garden for the carbon dioxide. And then the person, and then I'm saying this produces, it over that 3 or 4 month period produces 8 ounces of medical grade product. So, you know, even at a compassionate rate of a couple $100 an ounce, you can see there's potential for a positive business case there. But if you think about the work that this takes over that 3 or 4 month period and start dividing back about how much time it is, that rate per hour gets fairly low. So, you know, patients that see dollar signs and that there's going to be a huge savings, the savings because of your labor. And when you're paying $10 or $15 a gram for a good product, it's because of the other person's labor that did it. But there's other positive things here. Really, when you do this, if you follow that and you measure it precisely and you don't deviate from their feeding schedule, there's really no nutrient or pH problems. Your plants will be green, they'll do the right thing. You get to control the root temperature, it makes for a healthier plant. You can use smaller containers. It's easier post-harvest. And then I'm saying there's less setup later, there's less nutrients, there's less pests, because if you just clone into growable and don't use dirt, there's less chance of getting pests in your garden. And then there's less grow time. They have a product called Overdrive, and it's definitely intended to control the hormones of the plant. So advanced is actually driving the plant to finish quickly. That's one of the reasons it's so successful. But I'm trying to be fair, I don't want to mislead people. So I wrote some cons too. And then we're going to take a second and talk about alternatives. So major con here to doing this is it's not organic. I know when they first started doing this, even when they were using chemicals, they called that organic. There's nothing organic about that. It's strong chemicals. Some of them are strong fertilizer, and some of them might consider chemical. Root conditions in this have to be maintained all the time. It has to be perfect. There's no buffer like dirt, so if you over-fertilize it, your plant gets hit right away. You got 80 or 75 degree water here all the time. That's just right for all kinds of problems with bacteria and fungus. And I wrote on here, what's an obvious characteristic of root rot? Anybody think of root?
Smell. The smell is what I was going to say.
You said smell. So yeah, that's the one. So come get another bit. So smell. Yeah, when you look at it, you see it, right? You see it and you smell it, and so you gotta watch that. That's one of the other advantages of looking at it. And again, the rock wool's not environmentally friendly. You gotta replace the water, so you gotta water the thing. That's a drawback. If you let the water drop down, you could damage your roots, so they're not reversible. And then the plants are top heavy. Terrible if you go in your garden and you haven't thought about that, and you come home and your plants are all falling over because they're top heavy. So again, what I tried to do here was, I tried to say, okay, here's some goals, here's an amount we want to try to produce in a time that we want to do it, and here's kind of a solution to it. But I want to take a minute and talk about alternatives. Can you help me tweak this a little bit? What are you thinking?
Rapid rooters instead of rock wool. It's made out of tree bark, which is recyclable, and or just using the neoprene discs and no media whatsoever.
What's it called?
Riot rooters or riot rooters.
Riot rooters.
Either one, they're both.
Rapid rooters.
And riot. I like the riot.
They're made from bark.
Because it's environmentally friendly, that's a good idea.
Yeah, they are. That's what.
And they're not as temperamental with water. Rock wool, like with seeds, you can drown them a lot. Rock wool retains a lot of water, and
really
it's
wet.
not as much oxygen. And
Right.
the rapid rooters seem to maintain a perfect balance of water and oxygen.
Does anybody have anything else to add? So somebody's got one of those handouts that has a star on the bottom of it. Look and see if your handout has a star on the bottom of it. What I put on the back was just a list of some of the material that I think growers need to purchase. So it looks like that one. So what are the initials on it?
YW1.
That means you win. So come and see me later because you get to take the Bubble Boy home. And that was, so the Bubble Boys compliments of HCG Supply.
Very nice. Joyce, the coffee lady.
Thank you, everybody. So who
Gotta love it.
still baskets? Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good demo.